I am Elena Vargas. I am 32 years old, and for a long time I thought that my family lived with me because they loved me. The truth I discovered by accident, when my mother forgot to hang up a call. And I heard my father say with a coldness that is hard for me to remember, "Living with Elena is horrible, but we stay for the money." Then I heard my mother. "She is selfish. I am tired of having to ask her for money and explain what I want it for." And then my sister Valeria laughed. "Elena only serves because she has money. Without that she is nobody." I stayed seated in front of my computer with the cell phone glued to my ear, and my body frozen. I could not move. At that moment I understood that the people to whom I had given house food security and support saw me as a bank account with a name. I worked as a programmer in a large technology company with offices in Santa Fe in Mexico City. I had a good position, good salary, and years of effort behind me. 3 years before I had divorced, my ex-husband and I reached a strong economic agreement for the sale of assets we had together. And with that money I was able to buy a large house in the western zone of the city without a heavy mortgage. At that moment I thought I was doing something good. My parents no longer lived so comfortably. My sister was still trying to lift her business, and I had enough space, so I bought the house and invited him to live with me. My father, Don Javier Castillo, had retired early. He was 61 years old, but he said he had already worked too much and deserved to rest. My mother, Dona Gabriela Castillo, had never worked outside the home, at least not since I could remember. And Valeria, my older sister, was 35 years old and had been trying for years to make a natural soaps business work. At first it sounded good. Handcrafted soaps, pretty packaging, internet sales, design bazaars, organic markets on weekends, but it never took off. She was always about to relaunch it, always needed another campaign, another design, another batch of ingredients, another photographer, and it always ended the same. Without enough sales, and with Valeria asking me for more money, I supported the house, paid the property tax, maintenance, electricity, water, gas, internet, groceries, repairs, and family outings. I had given my mother an additional card for house emergencies because I trusted her. When she went shopping and went over budget, I covered what was missing. When Valeria needed materials, packaging, or advertising, I also paid. Just the previous month I had given her 35,000 pesos for a supposed new campaign that, according to her now, would finally lift the business. My salary was high for Mexico because I worked with international clients and received bonuses, but it was not infinite. That I knew. They did not seem to want to know it. One afternoon in June, in the middle of the rainy season, one was in the office, finishing some lines of code. I had been reviewing an error in the system for hours when my cell phone rang. It was my mother. "Hello, daughter," she said with her usual tone. "I was thinking what to make for dinner. Do you feel like chicken in sauce or pasta? Whatever is easier for you, mother. I am not demanding." We talked for a few minutes about unimportant things. She told me something about television, an anecdote from the supermarket, and that a neighbor had argued with the guard over a package. Then she said she had to go. "Well, daughter, I will leave you. See you later." "Yes, mother. See you at night." But she did not hang up. I heard noises as if she had left the cell phone on the kitchen table. At first I thought about hanging up myself, but then I heard my father's voice. "I cannot stand living with Elena anymore," he said. "But as long as she pays for everything, it suits us to stay." He did not say it angry, he did not say it as a joke, he said it flat dry, as if he was commenting on the weather. Then my mother spoke. "She is so stingy. She has me fed up with having to ask her for money and explain what I want to spend it on." I felt something breaking inside me. Then I heard Valeria laugh. "Elena only has value for her money. Without that she is a zero on the left." The office was still the same. Keyboards, voices, my monitor on. But for me everything went dark. They continued talking. They complained about me, about the house, that I asked questions before giving money, that they would like me to just deposit without opinion. My mother said that I had changed since the divorce. My father said that I felt superior because I earned well. Valeria said that I was controlling and boring. Finally the call cut off. I stayed seated for a long time. The computer screen went black due to inactivity. In the reflection I could see my pale face with fixed eyes and tight mouth. Then I started thinking about my childhood. My parents had always put Valeria first. When she wanted dance classes, they paid for them even though the money was tight. When I entered the university, they barely celebrated because they were busy helping her with her first attempt to be a fashion blogger. Before the soaps there had been the blog, before the blog a course, before the course another idea. There was always a new Valeria who needed support. I worked at night during university. I made web pages, fixed computers, and took programming jobs to pay tuition, transportation, and books. Valeria tried an idea, got tired, and started another. That day I left work early. Between the afternoon rain, the exit from Santa Fe, and the slow traffic, I drove almost without thinking. When I arrived, everyone was in the living room. My father was watching television with the remote in his hand. My mother was leafing through a magazine. Valeria was lying on the couch looking at her cell phone. "You arrived early," said my mother. "My head hurts a lot. I am going to lie down." "Are you not going to have dinner?" "No, I am not hungry." I went up to my room and closed the door. I lay on the bed looking at the ceiling, repeating over and over what I had heard. I did not cry at first. I was too surprised. The crying came later when it was already night and the house was silent. The next morning I got up and acted normal. I prepared breakfast, as almost always scrambled eggs, toasted bread, fruit, and coffee. I watched them while they ate. My father checked news on his tablet. My mother hinted that she needed a new bag for a family lunch. Valeria looked at Instagram, barely present. The three acted as if nothing had happened, as if the day before they had not said that I was horrible, selfish, and useful only for my money. During the following 2 weeks I started paying attention to things I had ignored before. My father asked me too much about my finances. How much I earned, in which bank I had my savings, if I invested in funds or in CETES. Before I thought it was interest in my stability. Now I wondered if he was only calculating how much they could get out of me. My mother returned from her outings with expensive bags. Sometimes from Palacio de Hierro, sometimes from boutiques in Polanco. She brought scarves, shoes, creams, perfumes. She always said that everything was on sale. I started to doubt it. Valeria had been months without working. She really said that her business was in strategic pause while preparing a relaunch, but she kept asking me for money. 9,000 for advertising, 18,000 for new packaging, 12,000 for product photos. It never ended. I met with my friend Sofia in a cafe near Reforma. Sofia was a lawyer. She worked more on civil matters than banking, but she knew where to start. We were friends since university. I told her everything about the call, what I heard, how they were behaving, the doubts I had started to have. Sofia listened to me without interrupting. When I finished, she put her cup on the table. "You have to protect yourself, Elena, from your own family, especially from them. Start documenting everything. Note dates, amounts, comments. Review your accounts carefully, change passwords, and do not tell them anything yet." That night I started taking notes on my cell phone. Every strange comment, every money request, every expense that did not add up. Then I sat in front of my computer and reviewed account statements, cards, and bank movements. There I found what was missing. There were strange charges on my card, a dinner of more than 10,000 pesos in a restaurant I had never been to. Purchases of 45,000 pesos in Palacio de Hierro that I had not made, subscriptions to platforms that I did not even use. Then I entered the account we use for house expenses. My parents had access to pay services, buy groceries, and resolve domestic emergencies. I had opened it because I trusted them. My hands were shaking while I reviewed the movements. There were dozens of transfers. Some of several thousand, others of tens of thousands of pesos, all to an account I did not recognize. The concept said consulting services. Various expenses, suppliers support. I opened the details of the recipient. It was a business account in Valeria's name. I stayed looking at the screen. My parents had been taking money from the family account and transferring it to my sister's business. Without telling me anything. It was not 2 or 3 movements. Added up, those transfers exceeded 300,000 pesos in less than a year. I felt anger, but also a deep shame, not for what they had done, but because I had allowed it without seeing it. I had confused family with blind trust. I had confused love with obligation. I needed more clarity. I did not want to confront them with an accidental call and account statements. I needed to know what they said when I was not there. I needed to confirm if what I had heard was a bad moment or the real way they talked about me. I bought online a small voice-activated recorder, those used for meetings or classes. It arrived 2 days later. I put it in the living room, hidden behind a picture frame on the bookshelf. I was not thinking of using that as legal evidence. What could hold up with the account statements? The recordings were for me. During the following days I reviewed them at night. Locked in my room with headphones. The first day was almost boring. My father watching soccer and complaining about the referee. My mother talking on the phone with a friend about a recipe. Valeria going up and down the stairs. The second day I heard something. My father was talking to my mother in the living room. "I am tired of her," he said. "If one day she left this house, everything should stay with us and with Valeria. Finally, we could enjoy without giving her explanations. Do not say that, answered my mother. But she did not sound scared, she did not sound indignant. She sounded like someone who corrects out of habit, not because it really bothers her. The third day, Valeria was talking on the phone with a friend from the living room. She had a loud, carefree voice as if the house was hers. Elena is ugly, and besides she thinks she is very smart, she said. No wonder her husband left her. In person she is a failure, but at least she has money that we can use. The other person laughed on the other side. Valeria continued. She called me controlling, boring, ridiculous, useless for everything. Except for paying things. She said that I was a stingy woman obsessed with saving money and that it made her angry to have to pretend gratitude. I listened to the recording sitting on the edge of my bed with my hands closed in fists. That was my family, the people I supported. And while I gave them house food and opportunities, they despised me. On Sunday morning I decided to ask a question. Not a full confrontation, just a question. I found my mother in the kitchen preparing coffee. Mother, I need to ask you something. She continued, moving the spoon in her cup. Tell me, daughter. I saw some movements in the house expenses account. Large transfers to an account in Valeria's name. Do you know anything about that? She stood still. The spoon stopped sounding against the cup, then she turned and smiled too quickly. Those were supports for your sister to lift the business. You know how much she has struggled. Supports. We are talking about a lot of money and no one asked my permission. Well, daughter, it is family. In a family we share. Sharing is not that you decide for me in secret. She let out a nervous little laugh. You are making it sound worse than it is. Besides, you have always wanted to help. It is not help if they take it from me without asking. My mother lowered her gaze. I did not say anything else. I left the kitchen and went up to my room. The next day, Monday, I went to the bank during my lunch hour. I opened a new personal account to which only I had access, without authorized users, without additional cards, without shared permissions. I transferred there the liquid savings that were still in the previous account. Then I changed passwords for payroll, investments cards, mobile banking and main email. I cancelled additional cards, requested alerts for every movement and security locks on my investments. When I got home that night, dinner was almost ready. My mother had prepared stewed meat with rice. Everyone sat at the table as always. My father took his place. Valeria left the cell phone next to her plate. My mother served with a tense smile. I sat and waited for everyone to have food. Then I spoke. I heard your conversation a few weeks ago. When my mother forgot to hang up the phone, the table fell silent. My father's fork stopped halfway. My mother's smile froze. Valeria's cell phone slipped from her legs and fell on the chair. I heard what they really think of me. No one said anything for a few seconds. Elena, daughter, started my mother. That was just a conversation. We did not say it seriously. We were venting. Venting. I took out my cell phone. Then listen to this. I played the recordings. Their own voices filled the dining room. My father saying that if I left, they could finally enjoy it without giving me explanations. My mother complaining about me. Valeria calling me ugly. Failure useful only for my bank account. I looked at them while they listened. My mother turned pale. My father clenched his jaw. Valeria looked at her plate as if she could disappear inside it. There is more, I said. I put the cell phone on the table. I also know about the money you transferred to Valeria's account. More than 300,000 pesos in less than a year. Without my permission, my father straightened his back. We thought you would want to help the family. We thought it was house money, added my mother. It was my money and you knew it. Valeria raised her gaze. You cannot talk like that. I needed that money for my business. That your business was bad does not give you the right to put your hand in my account. We did not rob you, said my father with a hard voice. You took money without permission. Call it what you want. I went back to the screen and played another part of the recording, Valeria's call with her friend, where she called me controlling, stingy and ridiculous for not giving money more easily. When it ended, I put away the cell phone. I want you to leave my house tomorrow. My mother started to cry. No, Elena, you cannot do this. Valeria stood up abruptly. Are you serious? Completely. My father leaned towards me, trying to regain control. Let us calm down. Do not make a decision like this in the heat of the moment. We all said things we should not have. We can talk about it. You have already talked enough when you thought I was not listening. We can go to therapy, said my mother between tears. Family therapy. We are going to fix this. You can pay for it and we start as soon as possible. I looked at her without saying anything for a second. There I understood that they had not understood anything. Even in their apology, the payment was still my responsibility. No, you leave tomorrow. Take the essentials. If you do not want to do it the easy way, I am going to talk to Sofia. To do it the right way. Valeria started screaming that I was unfair, that I was exaggerating, that a real sister does not do that. My mother cried louder and louder. My father tried to negotiate as if this was a money discussion and not a complete betrayal. I got up from the table and went up to my room. I locked the door. I did not come out all night. The next morning the house was strangely quiet. I went down the stairs carefully. The living room was empty. My parents' room, where they had lived for years, was almost cleared. Valeria's room too. They had left at dawn, taking clothes, documents, boxes and what they could carry. They left because they understood that this time I was not threatening. I had account statements, screenshots, recordings and Sofia ready to act. The house looked strange without my father's newspapers, without my mother's magazines, without Valeria's soap boxes occupying corners. It was the same house, but for the first time. The air felt different. My cell phone started to vibrate. Messages from the three. My mother wrote long paragraphs saying that she was sorry, that they had made mistakes, that a family should not break over money. My father sent shorter messages. We have to talk like adults. This got out of control. You cannot leave us like this. Valeria alternated between apologies and complaints. Sorry if I hurt you. You are exaggerating. You have no right to destroy us. I did not respond. I took screenshots, saved them in a folder and sent them to Sofia. Then I called her. It is done, I told her. They left. Good, she answered. Come to my office this afternoon. We have to review that they have no access to anything and leave everything documented. That afternoon Sofia helped me sort out the mess. We reviewed accounts, cards, movements, accesses and house documents. She drafted formal notices to make it clear that no one was authorized to use my accounts, my cards, my assets or my name. She also asked me if I wanted to start a formal claim for the money. First, I want to secure my house and my accounts, I told her. We will see later. Meanwhile, Valeria posted something on Instagram. I found out because a mutual acquaintance sent me a screenshot. Valeria had written a very long text calling me selfish, cold and cruel. She said that I had thrown my parents and my sister out on the street, that I had left them without a way to support themselves, that I thought I was superior for having money. Also, 2 messages arrived from distant relatives repeating my mother's version. I did not answer any. I could have responded. I could have uploaded screenshots of the account statements. I could have posted the recordings. I could have told everything, but I did not. I did not want to turn my life into a spectacle. I had already recovered my house. I was not going to give them a public explanation too. The first weeks after they left were strange. The house felt too big and too silent. In the mornings I prepared coffee only for myself. No one left dirty cups on the counter. No one opened the refrigerator complaining that something was missing. No one appeared with a list of urgent expenses. At first that silence made me uncomfortable. Then I started to enjoy it. I arrived from work and there was no one waiting for me with a request. No one hinting that they needed clothes, materials or money for another campaign. No one treating me as if my salary was a family resource without bottom. I worked without interruptions. I cooked what I felt like. I slept when I wanted. I woke up without hearing arguments in the kitchen. For the first time in 3 years I felt that my house was mine. My cell phone continued receiving messages for a while. My mother wrote about forgiveness, mistakes and family. My father insisted that we needed to sit down and talk. Valeria went from crying to claiming from me. I did not respond to any. I saved them, archived them and silenced their conversations. A month later Sofia came to dinner at my house. I made pasta, opened a bottle of wine, and we sat in the kitchen. How are you? She asked me. Better than I thought. Really? Yes. I thought I was going to feel guilty, but no. Sofia nodded. That is good. You should not feel guilt. They used you. I know. I just wish I had seen it before. You saw it when you could see it. That also matters. We talked about other things. Her work, university, friends, a trip she was planning to Oaxaca, a bad movie that we had both seen and that made us laugh. It felt good to have a normal conversation, one that did not revolve around money, complaints or family drama. When Sofia left I walked through the house with a strange feeling in my chest. It was a nice house, yes, spacious, comfortable with good light, but every room carried memories that I no longer wanted. In the living room I saw my father complaining about politics, sitting as if he owned the place. In the kitchen I saw my mother hinting at things she wanted me to buy for her. In Valeria's room I saw boxes packaging soaps, debts disguised as dreams. I no longer wanted to live there. The following week I called a real estate advisor. We took photos, sorted papers and put the house up for sale. It was not immediate, but in the first weeks 3 serious interested parties arrived. I accepted the best offer and the procedures began. Between appraisals, certificates, notary papers, and signatures, the process took several months. It was not fast, but each step took me out of a life I no longer wanted. While the sale was progressing, I looked for a new place. I did not want another huge house. I wanted something smaller, manageable, in an area with trees and less noise. I found a house in Coincidental near Viveros. It was much smaller than the previous one. 3 bedrooms instead of 5, a bright living room, a simple kitchen, a small garden with old trees, and a back terrace. The streets around were quiet, with neighbors who walked their dogs and greeted without getting into anyone's life. When I entered for the first time, I felt relief. I made an offer and it was accepted. The times were arranged with patience, not by magic. In the end, the sale of the old house and the purchase of the new one were only a few days apart. That gave me margin to pack close pending matters and move without feeling that I was fleeing. During that time, I started receiving news from my family through mutual acquaintances, people who knew us all and who had heard different versions. My parents were struggling. They had moved to a small apartment in a more distant area, much more modest than my house. My father had gotten a part-time job at Walmart in the warehouse, unloading merchandise and arranging products. My mother was selling her expensive bags, shoes, scarves, and clothes on Mercado Libre. Everything she had bought with my money she was now selling to pay rent and services. The comfortable life had ended without my salary supporting them. Valeria was worse. Her Instagram post did not turn out as she expected. At first, some people sent her support messages. But then others started asking questions. Why did not they work? Why did they depend on me? Why did a 35-year-old woman need her sister to support a business? It was not immediate, but the post closed doors for her. A natural product store that still paid her some collaborations decided to end the relationship. They did not want to be linked to public family disputes. Without that income, what little was left of her business dried up. Her social networks went silent and her online store disappeared. One night, Lucia, a university acquaintance who still talked to both, called me. I thought you should know, she told me. Valeria is very bad. Now she works preparing coffee in a cafeteria. She hates it. Also, your parents are very tight. They are adults. I answered her. They can solve it. Lucia was silent for a few seconds. Have you really finished with them, right? Yes, completely. 4 months after having kicked them out of my house, I moved to the new one. It was a Saturday in November. In Mexico City, the air was fresh and clear. After a rain the night before, the moving staff unloaded my furniture, boxes, and books. I had gotten rid of many things. I only kept what I really wanted. The new house did not feel empty, it felt the right size. I spent the weekend unpacking. I set up my office in one of the bedrooms. I hung paintings that I chose. Not the ones my mother said looked finer. I bought plants for the living room, arranged the kitchen my way. I put a comfortable chair by the window. On Sunday afternoon, I sat on the terrace with a glass of wine. The trees in the garden moved with the wind. In the distance, birds could be heard and the quiet murmur of the street. No one asking me for deposits. No one talking bad about me behind my back. No one treating me as if I existed only to finance their comfort. 6 months after moving, I already had a routine that I really enjoyed. At work, I was doing better than ever. My boss noticed that I was more focused and less distracted. He was right. I no longer checked my cell phone every half hour, for fear of finding messages asking for money. They formalized my senior position and gave me the leadership of a large project. It was difficult work, but the kind that made me get up with the desire to sit in front of the computer. The money from the sale of the previous house was invested. It no longer went to whims, other people's debts, or failed campaigns. I was saving it for my future, even if it was only for the peace of mind of knowing that it was there protected for me. My new neighborhood was exactly what I needed. Quiet streets, old trees, neighbors who greeted but did not ask too much. There was a cafe 2 blocks away where I went on weekends to read. I also met Clara, a neighbor teacher, more or less my age, who lived 3 houses ahead. Sometimes we had dinner together, sometimes we watched bad movies, sometimes we sat on her terrace or mine to talk about anything. I liked that Clara did not know my whole family history. For her, I was Elena, the programmer who walked through Viveros, drank too much coffee, and watched television programs to disconnect. From time to time, I received news from my family, although I never asked for it. The city seems huge, but when there are mutual acquaintances, the information finds its way. My parents were still in their small apartment. My father continued working at Walmart. I found out that he tried to recover the job from which he had retired early, but the company had already hired someone else. Years ago, at 61 years old, with a big gap in his work history, he did not find anything better. My mother had already sold almost all her expensive things: bags, jewelry, shoes, brand clothes. She worked half shift in a boutique, something she had sworn she would never do. Valeria was still preparing coffee. Her Instagram account was still almost dead. Once I searched for her soap page out of curiosity. It no longer existed. The dream of Valeria fed for years with my money had finally gone out. Lucia told me that Valeria had tried to ask for money from some friends, saying that she was in a desperate situation. Most told her no. They had seen her post against me and had also heard the other side. Not everyone believed her anymore. When I heard those news, I did not feel joy nor guilt, I just registered it. As someone who listens to something that no longer belongs to her. They were living their life. I was living mine. For months, my cell phone was quiet. No messages from them, no missed calls. No attempt to manipulate me with guilt. It seemed that they had finally understood that I was not going to open the door to them again until one Saturday afternoon I saw my mother in the supermarket. She was in the fruits and vegetables section checking tomatoes. She looked older than I remembered, more tired. Her hair was tied up carelessly and a simple bag hanging from her shoulder. She no longer wore the elegant clothes with which she walked around my house as if everything was guaranteed. She saw me at the same time I saw her. We stayed looking at each other over the vegetables. For a second I thought she was going to approach, that she was going to try to talk to me, maybe cry, maybe ask for another chance, but she did not. She lowered her gaze, left the tomatoes and went to another aisle. I finished my shopping and left. When I was putting the bags in the car, I noticed that my hands were shaking a little. That was all. There was no scene, there was no confrontation, just two women crossing in a supermarket like strangers. When I got home, I prepared dinner and sat on the terrace. It was May, late spring. The trees were full, the air smelled of wet earth, and the plants I had bought months before had already grown. I thought about my life before, working non-stop to support 4 people, paying for everything while they said that I was selfish, discovering that they had taken more than 300,000 pesos from me. With a tranquility that I still had a hard time understanding. Then I thought about my life now, projects that excited me, money saved for me, a house that I liked, friends who looked for me because they wanted to see me. And not because they needed something. The hardest thing was not the money, it was understanding that while I was trying to support them, they had already stopped seeing me as daughter and sister. For them I was an available account, and an account does not need affection, only balance. My cell phone vibrated, it was Clara. Do you want to come for dinner? I made tacos and I overdid the food. I also have too much guacamole. I smiled while answering her. Yes, I am coming over. I went in to change. That was my night, simple plans with a real friend, food made without hidden interest, and a conversation that was not going to end in complaints or deposits. I did not know what my parents and Valeria were doing. I did not care, they were no longer my responsibility. I took my keys and walked towards Clara's house. The afternoon was warm with that soft light that falls on the tree-lined streets of Coyoacán. We were going to eat tacos, probably watch a terrible movie and laugh about anything. Normal things between friends. A night without demands disguised as love. While I walked, I realized something simple. I was calm. Not the false calm of pretending that everything was fine while my family used me. A real calm, far from people who only knew how to ask. I knocked on Clara's door. When she opened, I was smiling. Come in, she said. I made too much guacamole. I entered and closed the door. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.